Krystal Everdeen, and today I want to share with you how to crochet this daisy handbag. For this project, I'm using size 9 yarn from the brand Yarn Bee, and I got this at my local Hobby Lobby. But if you do not have a Hobby Lobby nearby, I'll also try to link a similar yarn from my Amazon affiliate links in the description box below. Also, since this yarn is a bit chunkier than the yarn I normally use for my tutorials, I wanted to share with you all the information it has right here on the back. So again, it says right here, it recommends a size 9mm crochet hook. However, for this project, I'm using my size 5mm crochet hook, not for any particular reason other than it's the only crochet hook that I have. And if you want my exact same crochet hook, I'll also leave a link for it via my Amazon affiliate links in the description box below. But if you want to make life easier on yourself, you could use a larger crochet hook. Again, this packaging recommends a 9mm crochet hook. So if you want to go with that, that's perfectly fine. I'm just using my 5mm crochet hook. So yes, I'm using white yarn, and then I'm also using yellow yarn. Now this is the typical size 4 yarn that I use for my tutorials, and the reason I'm using this one is because it's the only yellow yarn that I have. No other reason than that. If you want to use the same size so that, you know, it actually matches, then you can go ahead and do that as well. There's no reason that this one is thinner than that one. It's just what I have. So yeah, and again, similar items will be listed in the description box below via my Amazon affiliate links if you want all of the gear that I have here today. But yeah, these are the materials I'm going to be using for this project. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do is grab my yellow yarn and create a slip knot. Now if you are completely new to crochet, I do have a Crocheting for Beginners video linked in the description box below as well. So you can go ahead and practice with that first and then come back to this one, or try out my other beginner friendly videos first and then come back to this. So after you've created your slip knot, you're going to chain 2, 1 and 2. And then you're going to go into that very first stitch that you created with a single crochet. So like that. And then you're going to go into that same opening and just create another single crochet. And you're actually going to create 4 single crochets inside of that same opening. So just that same opening, you're going to be making single crochets, and that's going to leave you with this little circle project. So after you've created those single crochets, you're actually going to build on top of it. So I've now created a circle, right? And I'm back to the very first single crochet that I made. So I'm actually going to single crochet on top of that single crochet, and then go on to the next single crochet that I had created and make another single crochet on top of it, so on and so forth, until I've created 4 more single crochets on top of the previous row of single crochets. And now this is what the project looks like. So from here, we're actually just going to keep building and building on top of it to make the center of the flower. And now in order for it to actually grow, we need to actually start making 2 single crochets per stitch. So in this row, we're going to go into the previous row's single crochets, but this time we're going to be making 2 single crochets per stitch. So I'm going into the single crochet in the previous row, I'm making 1 single crochet, then going into that same stitch I was just in and making another single crochet. And this is going to increase the number of total stitches per row, which will then help grow the project, make it bigger and bigger. And once you've gone all around making your 2 single crochets per stitch, your project should look something like this. And then from here you can skip making it 2 stitches. So like you go into 1 stitch and you just make 1 single crochet, and then for the next one you make 2 single crochets, and then for the next one you just make 1 single crochet, so on and so forth. You can alternate between making 1 single crochet per stitch, and then in the next one you can make 2 single crochets, just so that it increases ever so slightly and not too much, because you don't want to increase the number of stitches too much, because then the project will start to ruffle, and you don't want that to happen. On the other hand, if you're making too few stitches per row, then your project will start to curve in. And again, that is a sign that you're not making enough stitches per row. So you should increase the number of times you make 2 single crochets per stitch. So you just kind of play it by ear and go by what it looks like. For me, I'm just going to alternate from making 1 single crochet in a stitch, and then for the next one I'm going to make 2 single crochets in that 1 stitch, and then again 1 single crochet in a stitch, and so on and so forth until the project is large enough where I'm happy with what it looks like, how large I want my bag to be, or rather the center of the bag to be. So totally up to you. I will catch up with you once the center is to my liking. But yeah, that's pretty much the pattern. So this is what it looks like so far, and I'll go ahead and get back to you once I'm done. Okay, so now that I'm happy with the size of the center of my flower, I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to cut the yarn from the yarn ball, and then I'm going to seal the project like so, just bringing the excess yarn through the last loop and giving it a tug, then kind of tucking it in so it's out of the way. And then I'll cut the excess later. But yeah, this is what the project looks like so far. Now we're going to bring in the white yarn for the petals. And of course, it doesn't have to be white if you don't want the petals to be white. It could be any color that you like. So for me, I'm using white. So I'm going to grab my my thick white yarn, and I'm going to add it to the project like this. Pretty much I'm just going to grab the yarn, wrap it around my hook so that there's a little bit of excess on one side, and then obviously the other side's attached to the yarn ball. Bring it through a stitch of my choosing, then both the excess and the part that's attached to the yarn ball, I'm going to put that on the hook and create 1 chain, and I feel like that's pretty much good enough to attach it. But of course you could attach it however way that you want to. That's just how I attach it. So from here I'm actually going to continue chaining, and I'm going to chain a total of 14 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now this is how long I want my petals to be, well at least approximately, because actually when we crochet on top of this it's going to be a little bit taller, so that's how you can kind of gauge how many chains that you need to make in order to make the petals. So figure out how tall or how long you want the petals to be, and then give it about like an inch of space. So instead of, if you want your petals to be this, where my index finger is, this tall, then only make 14. Give it that inch of space, because we're going to be crocheting on top of this chain. It's going to get thicker and also taller. So don't make this chain just like as tall as you want the petals to be, because it's going to end up being even taller than that, and then you're just going to have really, really long petals. So from here, we're going to go back on it with a double crochet. So to make a double crochet, it's yarn over through the stitch, yarn over back through the stitch, then yarn over through 2 loops on your hook, and then yarn over through the last 2 loops on your hook. So again, yarn over through the stitch, yarn over back through the stitch, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through the last 2 loops. One more time, yarn over through the stitch, yarn over back through the stitch, yarn over through 2 loops, yarn over through the last 2 loops. And this is what it looks like so far. So you're just going to continue making double crochets all along your chain that you just created, and this is going to be the beginning of your very first petal. So now that we are at the end of the row, the end of the petal, we're back towards the center. I'm going to show you how I finish this off. So I'm going to make sure that I go into the very last stitch to complete the petal, and then from here I'm actually going to single crochet into the yellow portion of the project, just to like solidify the petal onto the yellow portion. And then from here I'm actually going to separate the next petal by 5 stitches. So I'm going to go into the next 5 stitches with my white yarn. How many was that? I already lost count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'm gonna make 5 single crochets, and then I'm actually going to skip a single crochet, go into this one, and I'm going to make a double crochet, and this is going to be the start of my next petal. So I decided that I needed to have plenty of space in between because, again, we are going to be building on top of these petals and making them thicker and thicker. So it needs to have a decent amount of space in between the petals so they're not like overcrowding. And from here, we're going to, again, chain total of 14. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to go back on it with a half double crochet. Now when I go back on it, I don't go to the very first stitch. I kind of skip these two and go into this one just because it's easier for me to like go into it instead of having to go into the very first one. But that's why I changed so many. That's why I changed 14, because I know I'm going to skip these ones when I go back on it. So that's why I'm doing that, if you hadn't noticed that. And again, it's going to be double crochets all along the chain until you get to the bottom, where you're just going to repeat the pattern all around the yellow portion of the project. So I'll go ahead and repeat that one more time, and then we could move on. So let me just go to the bottom of this chain right here with my double crochets. Okay, so I have reached the bottom yet again. So from here, I'm going to single crochet into the yellow stitch to solidify the petal. This is what it looks like. It looks like a little alien flower as of right now, but once we build upon it, then it'll look more like petals. But anyway, from here, I'm going to then single crochet into the next 5 stitches. So 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to skip that next stitch, and I'm going to go into the next one and create a double crochet, and this is going to be the base of my next petal. So it's nice and separated from the other ones, and there should be a total of 6 petals. I think that 6 looks best, but if you want more petals, then you can go ahead and make more petals if you want to. Just make them closer together so that you have room to make more petals, but I like 6 petals. I think it looks really, really pretty like that. So this is how separated they need to be in order for them to fit. So from here, I'm going to again chain 14 and then just repeat the pattern until I get to the end here. Complete my last 5 single crochets until I get to this next petal, and then I'll show you how to build on top of these so that they don't look like little alien legs. Alrighty then, I will see you then. Okay, so I just realized that I kept saying 6 petals is a magic number, but 5 petals is the actual magic number. So this is what the project looks like so far. Yes, a little alien star baby, but it's going to look better once we build on top of these petals. But yeah, so this is what the project looks like so far. I just completed the 5th and final petal base. And now I'm going to complete the rest of the row by single crocheting into these stitches until I reach the very first petal that I created, and then from here I'm just going to single crochet onto it so that I'm like onto it, and this is what it looks like. I'll complete the very first row of white on top of the yellow. So from here we're just going to build on top of the petals and make them thicker, make them look pretty. And we're going to do that by simply double crocheting on top of the petal. So we're just going to go all around the top, and then we're going to build on top of the point here a little bit, and then we're going to go down, single crochet across the gap, and then double crochet on the actual petals. And that's an idea of what we're doing. So from here, I'm going to again just double crochet on top of the petal. So I am again yarning over, going into the stitch, yarning over again, going into 2 stitches that are on my hook, and then through the yarning over again, and then through the last 2 stitches. You know how to make a double crochet. So now I am approaching the top of the petal, and once we get to the top of the petal, again, we do want to build on top of that to make it a little bit taller, but also it's necessary to add stitches to the top so that the petal doesn't start curving. So again, now I'm at the very top of the petal, I'm going to make sure that I go into the middle of the top portion of the petal here, like right at the point, and I'm going to make 3 double crochets inside of that same point at the very, very top of the petal. And what this is going to do is not only build the petal so that it's taller, but it's also going to add stitches so that you're increasing so the project doesn't start to curve in. So this is what the petal looks like so far. I made those 3 double crochets instead of that 1 stitch. So now I'm going to go down the petal the same way by just making my double crochets all the way down the petal here. And this is what the project looks like so far. Oop, there we go. So I'm just going to again work my way down the petal here. And this is what it looks like after you go into a few stitches down the petal. So I completely finished the first side of the petal, and then I added the 3 double crochets on the top. So yeah, looking less alien-y, right? So yeah, I'm just going to finish my double crochets all the way to the bottom, and then I'll show you how I go over to the next petal. Okay, so now I am at the bottom of the petal, and I have 1 more stitch to go into, but I'm actually going to skip that one, and I'm going to go into this stitch down here with a single crochet. And the reason I'm doing that is so that the petal can be a little bit more sturdy as opposed to like very flimsy like these ones. Now that I have added an extra row, it's important for it to be nice and secure at the bottom, so that's why I did that. And you can see it's like able to stand up on its own now. So from here I'm going to single crochet my way over to the other petal. So just single crochet on top of the previous row of single crochet. And then from here, I'm going to actually reach on over to the petal here with a double crochet. So instead of going into this stitch and then going onto the petal, I'm actually skipping over this stitch and then going on to the petal from here. Yeah, it's a little bit more difficult because this hook is too small for this yarn. So hopefully you don't struggle like I do, but if you see me struggling, it's because this hook is too small for this yarn. But anyway, so I made my double crochet, and now I'm just going to continue making double crochets on top of this petal so it could get thicker. And then once I reach the top, I'm going to get back to you guys to show you again what you need to do every time you get on to the very top of the petal. But for now, just double crochet your way up. Okay, so now that I am at the very top of the petal here, I'm going to go into the middle stitch of that petal and create 3 double crochets inside of that same stitch. So that was 1, and then I'm going to go into that same stitch and create a second one, and then go into the same stitch again and create that 3rd double crochet so that it's built upon that petal. And then from here I'm just going to work my way down the petal with, again, double crochets, and then repeat the process onto the next petal as well until I have completed all of the petals and have gone all around. So this is what the project looks like so far. So we have these 2 thicker petals along with the skinnier petals that we have yet to go on, but that's pretty much the pattern that you need to follow for the other 3. So you're just going to single crochet your way to the next petal, and then double crochet your way up until you reach the point of the petal. And then once you reach the point, you're going to single crochet 3 times into the same middle stitch at the very, very top of the petal. Then double crochet your way down, single crochet your way over, and then repeat the process 2 more times until you reach this petal, where you essentially need to repeat the process over again just 1 more time, and then you will be done. But I'll go ahead and get back to you once I am over here so we can just have a refresher. But yes, this is what the project looks like so far. So I will see you soon. Okay, so I went ahead and completed the next row, and this is what the project looks like so far. The petals are still pretty skinny, but after I think one, maybe two more rows, it's going to look nice and luscious and full and very, very pretty. So again, we're essentially going to do the exact same thing we did before, where we're going to double crochet to the top and then add 3 double crochets inside of that one stitch at the very, very tip of the petal, and then we're going to double crochet our way down, single crochet our way over, double crochet our way up, make 3 double crochets inside of that one stitch at the very, very top, double crochet our way down, single crochet over, and then repeat the process over again. And that's just going to build on top of what we've already built and make the petals thicker. So again, very, very easy process. It's just a little bit time consuming, but that's okay. So from here, I'm just going to make my double crochets till I get to the very top of the petal, and so on and so forth. I don't think I need to show you, but let me just show you one more time. So again, I'm building double crochets on top of the previous row of double crochets and making my way to the very tippy top of the petal. And once I get there, I'm going to find that middle stitch, which is this one right here, and I'm going to create 3 double crochets inside of that one stitch. So 1, 2, and 3, and this is what it should look like. It's a little bit thicker than the previous row, a little bit more full, and then from here I'm going to work my way down and across to the next petal and repeat the process. So that's what you need to do for all 5 petals. And then once I have completed that, I'll go ahead and show you my progress so you have an idea of what your project should look like too. So yeah, this is what it looks like so far. So this is the petal compared to the previous rows. Alrighty, so we're just going to repeat that process all along the petals, and I'll get back to you once this full row is complete. I have completed the last row of the white yarn for the petals, and this is what it looks like. Very chunky petals compared to how we started. So after you completed your first flower, you're going to repeat the entire process again to make a second one. And this is going to be the front and the back of the bag. So what we're going to do is actually attach them together, like similar to this. However, we do want some space in the bag, so we need to add a few rows of single crochet in between the two so you actually have room to put stuff in the bag. So you can either use the same chunky yarn that you've been using for the rest, but I don't think I'm going to have enough. So I'm actually going to use some other yarn that I have that's just size 4. And I have way more of this yarn, so I know for a fact that I'll be able to complete the project without having to run to the store and get more, as opposed to if I use this one, I may run out in the middle of the project and then have to either like use 2 different yarns or have to run to the store, and I don't really want to run to the store. So I'm going to use this yarn, and I just wanted to explain that to you just in case you're wondering why I was using a different yarn. That is the reason why, but again, you can use whatever yarn that you like. So from here, I'm going to grab one of the flowers. I went ahead and decided to go with this one because I actually didn't seal this project, so I'm like, I should just continue off of this project here. So from here, I'm just going to kind of tuck in that excess and then attach the new white yarn to the project like so. Just going to single crochet 1 stitch so it's nice and attached. Okay, so now the new yarn is attached, right? So from here we're going to make the inside portion of the bag, and we want the this part of the project to go inward. So what we're going to do is, instead of going into the stitch as we normally would, so this is how we would normally go into the stitch, right? We would go through both of these like little V's right here and then create a stitch. But since we kind of want to go inward, so not build on top of it, but like build this way, we're actually going to go only into the back of that little V here. And then for every stitch, you're just going to go into the back and create a single crochet. So instead of going through the front right here and going through both stitches, we're going to go just through the back of the stitch and create a single crochet. In the back of the stitch, single crochet. Back of the stitch, single crochet. Back of the stitch, single crochet. And we're going to do that all along the petals here. And I'll show you what it looks like after the very first row. But yeah, that's pretty much all you have to do for this next row. And I guess it's kind of good that I switched yarn. That way you can see the difference between the two parts that we're working on here. So yeah, this is what it looks like. And you can already see it's starting to make it curve in. And that's actually what we want. So yes, just continue going through the back side of the stitch and create a single crochet all along the flower. And then I will meet you once I have done all this and I'm back here just to show you what it should look like. So just go through the back like so, make single crochet, go through the back, single crochet, go through the back, single crochet, go through the back, single crochet, so on and so forth. So I will meet you then. So this is what the project looks like after one row of single crochet going into the back section of the stitch. You can't really tell. I mean, it is curved a little bit, but once you continue to build upon this, it's going to get wider and wider and look like the flower is curving. But that part of the project is going to be like the space where you put your stuff in your bag. And after we've completed that spacing, we're going to then attach it to the other side, or attach the other side to it. And then kind of like we'll just leave one little space open so you can actually put stuff in there. And it should look something kind of like this a little bit, obviously with the little space there. But yeah, that's pretty much the plan. And then after we do that, we're going to make some straps and then be done. So from here, you're just going to continue making rows and rows of single crochet until you're happy with how thick the bag is. Again, that's going to be the space that you have to actually put stuff in your bag. If you want it to be like very thin, then you don't need to make that many. But if you want like plenty of space, if you want it to be like really wide, totally up to you. It just depends on how many rows of single crochet you're going to make. So from here, you actually don't need to go into just the back part of the stitch anymore. You can just go into the full stitch now, because you already directed it this way by going into the back stitch the first time. But from here on in, all you need to do is build upon it, so you don't need to continue going into that back stitch. You just again build upon the previous row of single crochet, and you just keep going around and around and around until you're happy with the width of your project. Okay, so I only did 3 rows of single crochet for this portion of the project, because I decided instead of making it as wide as I want just on one side, I'm going to make half here and then half on the other side. So I made 3 rows of single crochet on this one and on this one, so 3 rows each. And now we're going to attach them together like this, and we're just going to slip stitch all along the petals, and it's going to be very tedious and hard for me to show you on camera, so that's why I'm just explaining it to you with words. So we're going to attach everything together, right? Just like that with the slip stitch right here, except for one section of the bag, and it's, you know, wherever you want it to be, but obviously there needs to be an opening in the bag. So you're going to slip stitch along all the petals except for between 2 of them. So whatever one you want, let's say I choose these 2. These 2 are going to remain open, and that's where I'm going to put my stuff in the bag. This is going to be the top of the bag then. Everything else is going to be attached via slip stitch. And I'm going to do that by, let me show you an example. So I'm gonna grab one flower, and then I'm gonna grab the other flower, and then I'm just going to bring my hook in through the other flower, and then I'm going to wrap my yarn around, and I'm going to slip stitch. And then I'm going to go into the next stitch for one flower, and then the next stitch for the other flower, and then slip stitch. And then one stitch for one flower, and then the adjacent stitch on the other flower, and then just slip stitch them together. And then that's how you are going to attach them together like that. And then you just, again, you're just going to align them and then slip stitch them all along the petals all around until you get to the two petals that you don't want to attach. So all along to like right here. And then this part will be open, and then you'll be done with the actual bag itself. And then all we have to do are the straps. So yes, go ahead and slip stitch those two pieces together, and I'll get back to you once I do that. And this is what the project looks like after you attach both sides together. So this is what the side looks like once it is all slip stitched together. And I actually really like the way that this came out. I don't know if I mentioned earlier in the video, but I'm actually kind of making everything up as I go along, so I feel like it's, you know, turning out pretty good. I'm really excited. Anyway, so yes, this is what the project looks like so far, and I of course left this opening here so I can actually put stuff in the bag. And now all we need to do is make the straps. So I'm thinking that I'm just going to build upon where I left off. Right here, I'm just going to make a really long strap of probably like 250 to 300 chains long, depending on if you want just like a little strap or if you want a crossbody. Totally up to you, but yeah, just make as many chains as you would like for the length of the strap, and then I'm going to go back on that chain with probably a half double crochet, just so that the strap is a little bit thicker, and then I'm going to attach it to this side and then be done. So again, from here, I'm just going to, this is where I left off slip stitching. So from here, I'm just going to chain a really, really long chain. I'll go ahead and let you know how many I chained if you are curious to know. So here we go. Okay, so I said like 250 to 300. Well, that was a huge exaggeration. I actually just made 100, and I was like, you know what? I'm happy with the length of 100 chains. So I made 100 chains, but of course you can make more or less depending on where you want the strap to sit. I want mine to be more of a shoulder bag, but still long enough to be a crossbody, just like a really high crossbody if I want to wear it as a crossbody. So anyway, yeah, 100 chains. So from here, I'm going to attach it to the other side, and I'm just going to do that by choosing whatever stitch I wanted to attach to, and then just slip stitch, and voila, it is attached and it's officially a bag. But again, I do want the strap to be a little bit thicker, so I'm going to go back on it with a half double crochet. So I'm just going to slip stitch one this way, that way it's like more even. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and go back on that chain again with a half double crochet. Now if you're not familiar with the half double crochet, it is through the stitch, or yarn, sorry, half double crochet is yarn over through the stitch, yarn over back through a stitch, yarn over through all the loops left on your hook, yarn over through the stitch, yarn over back through the stitch, then yarn over and through all the loops left on the hook. And the only reason I am doing this is just because I want the strap to be a little bit thicker, but you can use whatever stitch that you prefer. It could be a single crochet, regular double crochet, or a half double crochet like me. I just wanted it to be a little bit different than anything that we've used so far. But yeah, so I'm just going to make this strap a little bit thicker, and then I'll show you the end result. Okay, so I have finished crocheting the strap, and this is what it looks like. And now I'm completely done with the project, and I love it. I really like the way it turned out. I'm so glad that there wasn't really any mishaps because again, I was just making everything up as I went along. So I hope that you found it nice and easy to follow, or at least, you know, have an idea of how you can make your very own. If some things don't really work for you, you're like, why did she end up doing that? If she could have just done this, it would be easier. Just do it. So this is more of a guide than a step-by-step tutorial where you have to follow it no matter what. So again, if you find something to be easier, you'd rather, you know, use a different stitch or do it differently, totally up to you. So yeah, but regardless, I hope that you found this video helpful, whether you followed along to the T or you just use it as like an idea of how to make your very own. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. If you do love crochet videos, I have a ton of them on my channel, so go ahead and check out the rest of my channel. If you found this video either interesting, entertaining, or helpful, please give it a big thumbs up before you go, and don't forget to click that red subscribe button if you have not already, so I can see you next time. Bye, and have a magical day.
These days, under the sun together, these days, let's make them last forever. These days. these days. Let's hope they last forever.